Sippers, and welcome back to another episode of Leadersips, where we grow in our leadership with tips while we sip. So today I am truly humbled, not gonna lie, fangirling a little bit, and honored to sip with Maxwell Leadership Executive Team member Bill Goodwin, who has an extremely inspiring story of literally when he died and he came back with purpose and a purpose that really helped inspire his new book, Priority Living: 7 Pillars to Making Your Life Count. We had a great conversation, so many great words of wisdom, and please stay till the end because he drops some profound sips of wisdom for how we can live our lives not just with passion, but purpose and fulfillment, no matter what we do and how we do it. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a cup of Leadersips. Right, well, hello, sippers, and welcome back to another episode of Leadersips, where we grow in our leadership with tips while we sip your favorite beverage. Today, I am truly humbled and honored to sip with Maxwell Leadership Executive Team member Bill Goodwin. Bill has over 30 years of leadership experience in growing and building individuals and teams. He founded Priority Living Consulting Group to add value and equip leaders to reach their full potential. And he's the author of a soon to be released book, which I'm super excited to read about, Priority Living: 7 Pillars to Make Your Life Count. But I don't want to steal his thunder. I want him to share his story with us. So, Bill, welcome today. Happy.
Oh, Carlin, thank you for having me. And coffee cheers to you. And I'm glad we get to sip together.
Mm, it's an important sip. Thank you so much. So, I mean, I know we're both John Maxwell team. You obviously, I'm a coach,
hmm
and you have an amazing executive leader position. But I would love to hear how you got into that journey because one of the things I know we chatted a little bit about, and I love to learn about you, is that both John Maxwell and you started out as pastors, and it seems
hmm
that you were steered into different paths. So, just would love to hear more of your story.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I felt a call into ministry when I was a senior in high school. After spending time with my youth pastor, his name's Craig Kestner, and back in the 80s, way back in the day, right? And I felt really drawn to a calling in ministry. So I started in youth ministry and served at several different churches, both in Arizona and in Minnesota. And I currently live in Minnesota now. And over the years, then the Lord made a way. I was not looking for it, but an opportunity to serve as a lead pastor of a church. And I stepped into that role a little bit with fear and trembling because I was passionate about teenagers, but now there was an opportunity to serve as a lead pastor, and so I served in that role for 18 years, and um, really felt like my calling not only was to the church, but it was to the city. So I was investing myself in relationships with the mayor and principals of schools, superintendent of schools, business people in the community, as well as those in my local congregation. And so I've been passionate about leadership and leadership development. And then 2018 came along, and a friend of mine who was being personally mentored by John Maxwell invited me to spend a day with John in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in a suite there. He had invited about 30, I don't know, maybe 40 pastors to come and spend the day with John. And so, Carlin, I you won't believe it, but I said to my friend, "I'm sorry, I can't make it. I have a dentist appointment."
Oh,
No, no, I'm just kidding. I made that up. I would cancel whatever I had to cancel,
right.
right? And so that was the day that I met John, Papa John, as we call him, and had just an incredible experience that day. And meeting him for the first time and being in that close proximity, and had a really impactful day. That was a life-changing moment for me, to be honest. And my friend that had invited me, his name is Rob Hoskins. He's the co-author with John on a book called Change Your World. And he told me about the John Maxwell team that day. And I said, I didn't, I kind of heard about this, but I don't really know much about it. He's like, Bill, you really need to look into this. Like this would be, a great place for you. Well, life happened and we were in a renovation process of our church and campaign, and then COVID happened, and But along the way, I always had in the back of my mind, someday I'm going to look into this John Maxwell team. And so, long story short, March of 2021, I finally jumped in with both feet and just have loved the community. I say it's the secret sauce of Maxwell leadership. So if you're looking for a growth-minded environment with incredible people, as you know, Carlin, that it's the best place to be. So since that time, I've just fully invested myself and have grown tremendously. And at that time, I also started Priority Living Consulting Group because I needed an LLC that would be able to do leadership development outside of my work in the church. And so for a year and a half, I had opportunities to speak and coach and train, and it came much faster than I had thought. I thought maybe 3 to 5 years, but in a year and a half's time, I realized I've got two full-time jobs going here, and I really feel called to the next season of my life would be to develop leaders both in the marketplace and in ministry. And so that's where I find myself now, full time for now 3 years, full time doing this work of priority living and coaching, speaking, training, and absolutely feel like I'm in the sweet spot. I often say to people that your now leads to your next, and that definitely has been the case for me.
I love that. Your now leads to your next. That's so true. And that's a tough thing to do, I think, for so many people who feel called to coach and to lead in different ways, but appreciate the what they perceive, I guess, is the security of a full-time job or working for another company or a person. So I admire you for taking that leap of faith, and it obviously paid off for sure. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I'm
yeah. John
grateful.
is incredible. Well, and blessed, right? Both of us. I feel the same
Mhm.
way. I feel like I first met John. I met him, but I wasn't actually able to sit in a room and be completely mentored by. I haven't had that opportunity yet. But then, met him briefly, took a photo with him, gave me some words of wisdom, and I was just like really introduced to him when I was in grad
Mhm.
school at Biola University in California and read the books.
Mhm.
And it's funny how, yeah, you read the books, these are great, leadership's a passion. And then but it's like the whole concept of John Maxwell and team and Maxwell leadership
Mhm.
comes into your life in a time, I think, when you're almost ready to hear about it, ready to see it, and ready to go all in. And
Yes.
so
Yeah.
I had the exact same experience in 2016. Not exactly the same, but the same kind of like a friend going, "Hey, have you thought of?" Or "Hey, have you heard of this?" Or
Mhm.
"Hey, here's an opportunity." So it just, I think, goes to show relationships matter so much, and the people you impact matter. And I love that John talks so much about he just wants to add value. It's the most simple life
Yes.
mantra, of just adding value to
Mhm.
others in so many ways. So that's
Mhm.
amazing. Speaking of amazing, so I have to hear more about the fact that you died and came back to life, kind of like our Lord and Savior, but a little bit different. I would love to
Yeah.
hear more about that, and then how I'm guessing that must have also changed your life in so many ways.
Yeah, absolutely it did. And it's the beginning of my book called Priority Living:
Mm,
7 Pillars to Make Your Life Count. Is the first part of the book in the introduction says November 23rd, 1999 is the day that should have been on my tombstone. Um, so that day I was a young youth pastor, 28 years of age. So that's 26 years ago. I'm 54 now, but that day changed my life. I was headed to our church. It was a Tuesday morning, 2 days before Thanksgiving, and I took our little family dog to the groomers, which I didn't typically do. I grew up with some allergies and asthma, so my wife would typically do that, but that day it just worked out for me to just drop the dog off, and I was in the groomers longer than I had expected, and an asthma attack came on me
mm,
very strong. And I went out to my car. I used my rescue inhaler, was not getting relief. I began to panic, and so I wasn't sure what to do. But I drove home instead of driving to the church, and I went through my garage door to go in. I specifically remember with the little air I had left, Carlin, I called out, "Jesus, help me, Jesus!" And I was really panicky at that moment. It was quite scary, But I grabbed my nebulizer machine and my saline solution for that, and I put it in there. I was on my knees in my family room. My daughter was home from a break from school, and I called out to her to call 911. And
Mm,
within 5 minutes, probably the paramedics were there. Grateful for that. But at that moment, I blacked out in my family room, and over the next number of hours, I was blacked out, so I don't recall them in the natural. I don't remember going to the hospital in the ambulance. I don't remember being in the ER. And I woke up out of they'd put me in a medical induced coma in the hospital. And I woke up from the time I was in the family room to when I woke up, it was 9.5 hours. I was now in ICU, intubated. And while I was in the ER is when I had actually coded, and my spirit left my body, and I had an afterlife experience that I share all about in the book of what I experienced in heaven and before I was resuscitated. And and that day absolutely changed my life. When I woke up in ICU, my wife was standing next to my bed. uh, the news had gone out, obviously, to the church staff and to family members, and sent out in phone calls and emails, and people were literally praying around the world for me. Um, so grateful for that. And when I woke up out of that medical induced coma in ICU, intubated, they gave me a piece of paper to write on a clipboard. And the first thing I wrote was, I saw Jesus. And I
mm,
had tears streaming down my face. My wife said, "You saw Jesus?" And yeah, it was quite impactful for me. And I love sharing with people the hope of heaven and what I encountered in a moment. This life and the afterlife, it's like a veil. It's just like it's like we when we say the words, we cross over. We literally are, when our spirit, which is the essence of who we are spirit beings having a human experience, not human beings having a spiritual experience. When our spirit leaves our body and we take our last breath, it is just literally crossing over from this life to the next. And so absolutely that day is a day, honestly, it might be an exaggeration to say every day, but I can pretty much say almost every day since November 23rd, 1999, something crosses my mind, my path of that encounter that I had on
mm.
that day.
I can only imagine. I mean, what it's both one of those scary but also hopeful and amazing experiences because you've
Hmm.
had such a unique experience to actually confirm that there is something beyond the veil. So, as you say, I mean, those of us who are believers, obviously, we have that hope of heaven and we have
Hmm.
that hope beyond. But I think, having lost both my parents and friends, and I've had friends even lose children. I mean, it's just, there's so much grief in this world and loss. But I feel like we can hang on to that hope and that we're here the numbers that we're supposed to be, the days and the numbers of days we're supposed to be here, that
Hmm.
purpose. And obviously, your purpose on earth wasn't done yet. And without that, we wouldn't have, all of the great leadership and the lessons
Hmm.
and your testimony too, and your, message of hope. And of course, your wonderful, wonderful book that I cannot wait to read as well. Talk about
Yeah.
talk about prioritizing your life, right? And when you have those moments, I'm sure it gives you that perspective to really come back and make things a priority. I did not die, but I should have died in
Hmm.
2008. So I relate to your story a lot. I had broken my ankle. I was in a car accident. Somebody hit me from the side and I slammed the brake on, fractured my ankle.
Mm.
And I guess I didn't put my leg up probably as often as I should, rushed back to work a little sooner than I should have. And I didn't know what a blood clot felt like. And when one day I was sitting in my office at work and I got this, I couldn't breathe and just could not breathe, got dizzy, flashing, all these things. And I remember saying that same words you did, was like, "Oh, Jesus, please just help me. Help me."
Mm.
Because I felt like I was dying, like I felt like I was going.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I was able to catch my breath and I felt a little bit better, but just really tired afterwards. So My husband picked me up because I couldn't drive with my boot on my right leg. And he picked me up and I
Mhm.
went home and I just still didn't feel well. But of course, me not going, rushing to a doctor or anything else, I'm like, I'm just going to go lay down and sleep. So I slept. And then the next day, I still felt like I couldn't quite catch my breath. So went to urgent care and they found I not only still had blood clots in my leg, but I had a pulmonary embolism and I had blood
Oh
clots in
my.
both my lungs. And the doctors are like, you should be dead. Like, no one survives this, let alone you waited and you came 24 hours later to the urgent
Mhm.
care. So, anyway, long story longer. Yeah. And I spent a week in the hospital being pumped full of blood thinner. And, eventually the blood clots left. But I will say those moments too are very life changing in so many ways of wow, like I easily could have left this life. I
Mhm.
should have left this life,
Mhm.
but it wasn't my time. And since then, I look at all the things that, God has graced me with and helped me do. And my life changed in that it became more of a, I just want to add value to others. I just want to serve
Mhm.
others. I just want to add, impact and leave a legacy, not because I want a statue erected to me in some square, but I really do want to help people with leadership. So I love that like people like us, we find each other and it's also these
Mhm.
great little God moments of, these conversations to also hopefully help people who are listening to this or hearing your story or my story, others to say, one, there is hope. And two, like, don't let life pass you by. Don't wait. Every day counts. And our days are counted, but some of us it's 20 years and some of us it's 90 years or whatever in between. But we're
Mhm.
not promised tomorrow, right? So anyway, I didn't mean to get on my soapbox about that, but I
It
just
was so good. Yeah.
really resonated with you and your story. So,
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate you sharing yours as well. And so, really from that moment, I was all the more mindful that I want to make my life count. Now,
mm,
you don't have to die to want to make your life count. I think there is an innate ability put in all of us that we want to make a difference in this world, and with the time that we have and the life that we have. Our mentor John Maxwell says most people accept their lives instead of leading their lives. And
yes.
so for me, I realized I need to be intentional if I want to, for sure, make my life count. I can't just take it day by day and just say, well, hopefully I make a difference in this world. Yeah, I'm not going to drift to greatness. I have to be intentional about it. So for me, I didn't start out with a framework. I didn't start out with thinking it'd be a book someday, but over 20 years ago, I started thinking about what are the areas of my life that I want to be all the more focused on so that I can make my life count. And so, little by little, over these, about 20 years, I developed what now I call the pillars that make up a life called priority living. And priority living is just an important desire of mine. This is a framework in the book, but it isn't something like if you do this, this, and this, you'll be successful, or if you do this, this, and this, these seven pillars, you'll get to a point to where you achieve them all and you accomplish them all. No, instead, it's really a framework for daily living that makes the most of your life or makes your life count. And so you never arrive. I'll never arrive. I'll always be growing. I'll always be pursuing these seven pillars, um, so that I can indeed, at the end of my life, whenever that ends up being, be able to look back over my life and say, yeah, I did the best I could with what I knew and the people I had around me and the opportunities that were afforded to me, and I can feel good when it is my time to actually breathe my last again, but really for real the last time.
Yeah.
And so these seven pillars have been instrumental in my life. And I was coming up on the 25th anniversary a year ago, and I thought, this is in theory. I've been living this. So maybe it's time now that I share this with others through a book and other medias so that people can potentially look at their own life and see if any of these pillars are something that they want to put into practice into their life. And so that's really my desire and my heart behind the book. It really is for people of all ages. But when I think about millennials and Gen Z, I really thought, If I was in my 20s or 30s and I had the opportunity to read a book like this, it maybe could have really helped me set the course of my life, that I didn't have that opportunity. So that's really my heart behind the book, and sharing it on podcasts like this today.
I love it. And I'm so glad that you are. And I think it's so needed in this world because I feel like we all have our priorities out of whack a bit. And it's easy because it's easy to let the world tell you what your priorities should be. And that's usually what gaming and doom scrolling on social media and whatnot. Hey, I love social media as much as the next person. And it can be a good tool, but it can also be a dangerous tool in so many ways. And when people start, the comparison culture is so strong out there
Hmm.
and wanting to lean into, well, oh, look what they're doing and what they have. And then that
Hmm.
really impacts, I think, people's mental state and health. And it's like, oh, well, I'll never be this or I'll never be that. And I feel like, well, but we're all purposed for different things and we're all here for different things. And we just need to figure out what that is, right? And so
Yes.
absolutely need tools and frameworks and inspiration to help us do that, because otherwise if you're living a not a purpose driven life or not a priority life, then we're just sifting through the world, and the world can be pretty gross and ugly at times. So
Yes. I love that you said purpose, because the first pillar in the book is purpose. And
mm,
purpose is something that you discover. And I love the definition of purpose as giving the best of what you have to others. And so
love
I
that.
share in that first chapter of the book about purpose, that purpose is discovered. And I give 10 questions for the reader to begin to reflect on their own life and be able to discover their purpose or get clarity on their purpose. When we have clarity on our purpose, it gives us direction in our life. And so I do a comparison between purpose and passion, and how they complement each other, but how they're different. And so we look at these 10 questions, and it helps the individual, the reader, to be able to get clarity on their purpose. And in addition to being certified with Maxwell, I'm also a certified purpose coach with a company out of Dallas called the Purpose Company.
Mm,
And I love taking people through a coaching process to help them discover their purpose. And with that, the Purpose Company has developed a one of a kind book that takes people to that assessment. Take this about 25 minutes, take the assessment online, and then they get a PDF email with it's about a 40 some page document that will give them their purpose. And then I help people through coaching them through that and get real clarity on their purpose. I love the quote from Mark Twain, who said, "The two greatest days in your life are the day you were born and the day you discover why you were born." And that all goes to purpose. And so that's the first pillar in the seven pillar framework for priority living.
that's awesome. I love that quote too. It's so true and so good.
Hmm.
So as leaders, we are often helping people, um, often younger than ourselves, not always, but we're trying to help others too to find their purpose. So if you did have a time machine and you could go back in time, or if you want to quote the Mercy Me song, Dear Younger Me, and you could go back to your younger self and give them some advice or wisdom or, some kind of leadership lesson. Maybe it's about purpose or priority living, but it could be whatever you want. What would you say to your younger self?
Yeah. That's a great question. And I recently thought about it because a friend of mine, I was out in Texas at a conference, and he asked me, "So, Bill, what advice would you give your 16-year-old self?" So it's kind of primed me
Mm,
for your
that's per
question.
that's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll just go back to the reality of when I was 15, 16, 17. And I have an Uncle Tom and my Aunt Carolyn. They live in Cincinnati, Ohio. And they were some entrepreneurs, small business owners, quite successful, wonderful, wonderful people. And when they would come out to Arizona where I lived, I was a little lost, trying to find my way as a teenager, even angry and a bit suicidal. Um, and my Uncle Tom took me under his wing, and he began in the 80s to introduce me to Zig Ziglar cassette tapes and books, and Og Mandino books and things like that. start to talk to me about setting goals and the direction for my life. And I found such great value in somebody that saw potential in me. So to answer your question, I guess what I would say is, what would I say to my younger self? It's definitely lean in even more than you did at that time to the opportunities that are being presented to me, because that's when I was introduced to personal development, and I'm so grateful for it. But what I would say to my younger self is, um, uh, 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 don't stress out so much. Just relax and enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey ahead. I'm an by Strength Finder. I'm an activator, maximizer, futuristic, strategic. All of those things come up in my Strength Finder. So I'm a let's go, let's get it done. Like let's not type A driven. And I guess I would say to my younger self, I think I've chilled out a little bit over the years. Still quite passionate, but I think I would tell myself to slow down and just enjoy the journey, because again, your now leads to your next, and I've seen it over and over in my life and in the lives of others that it's important that we enjoy the journey.
I love that. And it's so important. And actually, I think I need that message now, not just my younger self
Hmm.
at 49,
Yeah.
slow down, enjoy the journey. You don't always have to keep chipping and chipping and chipping. And it's true, like I think too, working in a corporate world, I think the world tells you, drive, 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 grind, grind, grind. And it's always like up and down that vertical ladder. But it's like, where's that ladder really leading to? It's about going where you, again, add value,
Hmm.
where you find purpose, where God opens doors for you, walk through them. And it should be a little more zigzaggy and interesting and more of a jungle gym of career and path and such. I find it more interesting that way than,
Hmm.
just climb, climb, climb. And then what? You retire,
Right.
you die, you what? I mean, it's just not as much fun. And I do love that John, I mean, he's never going to retire. I mean, he's just not. He's just going, going, going till the day he doesn't have breath in his lungs. I feel like that is such a great example that so many people, we've been taught at least, oh, you retire and then you sit
Hmm.
in the rocking chair on the porch and do what? And I don't believe in that either. I believe you can retire from a company or retire, but go do something else. Go do something
Hmm.
different, or don't even wait for that day for your life to start, right? So such
Hmm.
valuable wisdom that you're sharing and so needed, I think, for younger and older and all. It's never too late, right? It's never too late to
Yes.
dream a new
Yes.
dream and to chase after that dream and make it happen.
Absolutely. Well, I have a line that I share in the book. I share it often in my keynotes, and that is, um, I know a lot of people are going nowhere fast.
Wow, that's
So
powerful.
so so direction is more important than speed.
Mm,
So if we get clarity on the direction of our life, we might just be plodding along. There might be times where like traffic, we might speed up, we might slow down. But if we're going in the right direction, that goes back to our purpose and clarity on our purpose for our life, then we can know that we're being productive and not just busy.
yes.
That's a word I'm trying to eradicate out of my vocabulary, is the B word, the busy word,
Mm,
because many of us are busy, but the reality is, are we just busy? We got our calendar full. Or are we living a priority living life, which is like, I have a full plate, but I'm being productive in what I'm where I'm investing my time. And so, one of the times when I was with John in Branson, I asked him, I said, my company's priority living, and he said he loves the name of the company. I didn't know I had a book coming at that point. It was a few years ago. But I said, John, how do I help people live with the right priorities? And he said this line, Carlin, I'll never forget it. I share it often. He said, a leader's calendar will always be full.
mm, wow.
He said, that's not the question. The
Mm,
question is, who's filling your calendar?
oh, yes.
Isn't that great? Isn't
That's
it? It's,
great.
it's just like,
I
whoa,
love it.
pause, hang on, I got to write this down.
Yeah.
And so,
Profound,
so,
profound.
so two things there. The first part of it is a leader's calendar will always be full. So, friend, if your calendar is full, you're probably a leader.
Mhm.
And we're always trying to not have a full calendar, but But John says a leader's calendar will always be full. So in other words, get over it. You're going to have a full calendar. But you can be more intentional about who's filling your calendar. So we had more conversation about it that day. Actually, I talk about that in the what would it be, the eighth chapter of the book? How do you apply priorities based on these pillars to your life? And I unpack more of the story that I'm beginning to tell you here with John. But I love the fact that from that moment forth, I have changed the way I do my priorities. I go through this is someone needs to lean in because somebody needs to hear this right now. This is going to add value to someone. So what I do is I go through my calendar, usually 3 months at a time. Sometimes I'm as far as 6 months at a time, and I'm putting in my calendar what I value, what are my priorities first. Then I can fill in my calendar with other people's requests and opportunities because I'm taking charge of my calendar. My calendar is not overwhelming me. And I know many of us have said yes to things, and then when the time comes, we go, "Why did I say yes to that? This feels like an obligation. I don't have time for this." And so what I've done is I've taken charge of my calendar based on that advice and counsel from John is like a leader's calendar will always be full. The question is who's filling your calendar? So if we go ahead and we begin to go as far out as we feel comfortable and fill in our calendar, now we are living with our priorities first and not everybody else's demands on our time. And I think that's a way to live a more fulfilled life.
Yes. Amen. And I needed to hear this, by the way. I'm sure a lot of other people needed to, but it's just the timing is always amazing because thank you. First of all, thank you for sharing that because I was literally having a conversation with two different coworkers this week about this very
Mhm.
thing of if you don't control your calendar, your calendar controls you. And I
Yes.
know that can be hard, especially if you are in an organization where you're working for someone else, but
Mhm.
you have to set your own boundaries. You have
Yes.
to, otherwise, you're letting things happen to you and not for you, and not
Mhm.
things that you're right, your priorities. It's so easy to get lost in what others want and what others are asking for. And then pretty soon, you don't even know who you are anymore. You don't even know what
Mhm.
your dreams are anymore, what your priorities are anymore. And it's a terrible place to be. And you won't be good to anybody, not just yourself,
Right.
but your relationships, your family, your job, because you haven't fulfilled those needs and you haven't been intentional with your time to just dial back down and figure out what are my priorities in life and prioritizing yourself and those, times to have those down times. I was listening to I went to the Global Leadership Summit. Well, I
Oh, yeah.
went to a virtual watch party, but my church was hosting, which was amazing. And
Mhm.
James Hewitt was one of the speakers. And I loved one of the things he said has really resonated with me too. And it's you don't have a breakthrough unless you're on a break. And
Mhm.
that was powerful. And I'm like, of course, that's why people get ideas in the shower or right on the back of a napkin at a restaurant or whatever. Like, usually, ideas or things come to you when you're giving yourself like intentional rest and break. And I feel like that's also something else I know me personally, I fail to prioritize as well.
Mhm.
So you can be the best version of yourself to others, to your family, to your dreams, to, your purpose. So
Absolutely.
it's
Well, that
definitely.
leads I'll just touch on another of the pillars of the 7 pillars is the word rhythm. And there
Mm,
is a pacing to our life that we can, be more impactful
love that.
when we live a life of rhythm. And so there is a pacing between rhythm and work and play, where there is a rhythm there that we between work and rest and play. And I quote in the book a gentleman named Mike Breen who talks about life shapes, and he has different principles to different common shapes, like a circle, a square, and he has a semicircle, and he talks about the rhythm of our life in the shape of a semicircle. So there should be
Mm.
this pendulum swing. And Mike Breen says this quote, and I have it in the book. He says that we are to work from rest, not rest from work. It
Oh.
Now
Wow.
think about that. That we usually go so fast, so hard, like, "Oh, I need a break, I need to rest." Or we go so fast, so hard, we go, "I don't have time to take a break. I don't have time to take vacation. I don't have time to use my PTO," because
Yeah.
we're just again, it's 5th gear, full throttle, busy, right?
Hmm.
And he shares this rhythm that I share in the book about if we rest and then we work, there is this rhythm to life that we are more productive when we work out of our rest rather than working so hard that we need to rest. And so I unpack that quite a bit. I share in that chapter my own story of in 2010, 2011, that I hit a wall. I went into complete burnout. Was gifted, so grateful. The elders of my church gave me a 12-week, a 3-month sabbatical, paid sabbatical to go rest, and I needed it. I had completely been in battle fatigue and did not manage my schedule well, and so that was really the time frame. And ever since then, that I've put into my life this pillar that I had learned from Mike Breen about the rhythm of life. And I think that chapter is really going to help some people to be able to learn how to have some real practical ways to value rest and prioritize that as that rhythm as a part of their life. And then you were talking earlier about even in corporate, and I just want to share this story because so my brother-in-law Louis uh, has been involved in corporate and just been an incredible uh, um, just an incredible person in the way that he interacts with people. And he was in group healthcare, uh, doing policies for group policies for health. Worked at some large companies, but whenever he'd take a new position, and he was very very successful there. But whenever he would take a new position, he would let them know, if you hire me, I'll come in early, I'll work hard all day, but I'm done at 4 o'clock. I will
Mm.
not do happy hours. I don't do meetings, dinner meetings with clients. If there's meetings even in the office after 4 o'clock, I won't be there. And they still hired him because he was a producer for them. And but why was he done at 4 o'clock? His priority was at 4 o'clock, I'm headed home. He has 5 children, and now he becomes Coach Lou, and he
Oh,
coached
cool.
softball for his girls. He coached baseball for his son. I think he even coached soccer for the younger ones. And he was Coach Lou at 4 o'clock. He went home and he was doing what his priority was outside of work, and that was being with his children and investing in other people's children as a coach. Well, long
Mm.
story short, Louis ended up getting colon and rectal cancer in his young 50s, and battled that for some time before he graduated to heaven. And
Mm.
I was honored. My sister had asked me if I would officiate his, whew, it's coming on me right now, his celebration of life.
Okay.
And it was packed. It was absolutely packed. And a whole section was these teenagers and young adults who were there because they were there because of Coach Lou, who had invested in their life and made a difference in their life. And I so love his example that he was producing in the corporate environment, but that was not taking over his life as it so often can, because he knew what his priority was, and he invested in those young lives, and he made a difference. And I so love his example. It's a powerful one to me personally as well as those that I share it with.
Wow. It is a powerful story and a powerful example, and such an example of courage to set boundaries. And what's the worst that anyone could say to that, right? It's like, I'm going to work hard for you, but this is my boundary because I'm going to
Hmm.
go be Coach Lou. And wow, should we all have it be a Coach Lou in our own ways and our own purposes? That's a beautiful story about your
Yeah.
brother. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that.
Hmm.
Well, I want your book. Where can I get it?
Yeah.
Because I'm all in on this, Bill. This is incredible.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your support.
Mm.
So Priority Living, 7 Pillars to Make Your Life Count. I'm not sure when the listener's listening, but October 7th, it's on Amazon. You'll find it just by looking up the title or my name. We can put the link, I'm sure, in the show notes there. But it's a tremendous opportunity for people to have their life inspired with my stories as well as principles that lay out these seven pillars throughout seven chapters, and then there's three follow-up chapters. One that talks about priorities, how to integrate it into your life. Then one is about foundations because we have to build our pillars on a foundation, and then the final chapter is on leaving a legacy. So
Mm.
that's kind of the framework of the book. And another one of our mentors, Mark Cole, who's the CEO of Maxwell Leadership, graciously did the foreword for me, and I appreciate that as well. You can go to PriorityLivingBook.com. That will take you to my webpage for my company, which is PriorityLivingCG.com for consulting group. And there's multiple other endorsements there for the book, and there's a link that'll take you right to the Amazon opportunity, and it will be an ebook, paperback, and hardcover that will be available as of October 7th. And I'd love for your readers to go there and get a copy. And as you read it, if you'd help me out and write a review, that would really be a plus. I'd really appreciate that as well. But and I'd love to connect with your listeners as well. So if I could serve you in any way, please reach out to me. Simply, I'm on social media. You can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Facebook as well. I do have Instagram, but the best way to find me is through those social channels. And then also my email is bill@PriorityLivingCG.com. And would love to hear from anyone that picks up the book or has any further questions as to how I can serve you.
Thank you so much, Bill. And I will definitely make sure all that information is available in the notes for the show. And I just really appreciate you taking the time today and being here and sharing so much of your heart. And I can't wait to read your book very, very soon. So we'll make sure that this goes out in a timely manner, so you can go right after you listen to this and buy the book
Yes.
and reach out. And LinkedIn, a lot of LinkedIn users I know are the
Hmm.
sippers, so I'm sure you'll get lots of requests after this. So, well, leaving on a fun note, as we do, we're leaderships and sipping together. So, are you a coffee? Are you a tea guy? Are you not either one of them? Which is okay
I
too.
am a coffee guy. Yes, I
Woohoo! How do
love
you?
my coffee, not just in the morning, but throughout the day, and
Nice.
love to greet friends as I did you at the start of this with coffee cheers as we start the morning. And
Yes.
absolutely, I'm a coffee drinker.
Awesome. How do you take your coffee?
I'm good with black or with a little cream, but I definitely no sugar. Don't need the sugar, but
Same.
yes.
Yes, I'm a black coffee drinker myself, but once in a while a latte is not bad, but I never do sweetener either. I want to taste the coffee. I want to taste
Yeah.
good roast to it. So that's awesome. Well, again, Bill, thank you so much for being here and appreciate you. And I know this is just the beginning of more conversations, hopefully, with you and I and on leadership. So priority living, 7 pillars to make your life count. All
Mm.
in. Go get it today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. What a joy.